Sarah stared at her coffee cup, watching the foam slowly dissolve into nothingness, much like her enthusiasm for this entire evening. She had agreed to this blind date only because her best friend Maya had practically begged her, insisting that Marcus was different, that he was kind, that he had a beautiful soul. But sitting across from him now in this dimly lit cafe, Sarah felt nothing but the familiar weight of disappointment settling over her shoulders like a heavy coat she couldn't shrug off. It wasn't that Marcus was unkind or unpleasant. Quite the opposite, actually. He was polite, well-spoken, and had kind eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. But Sarah had built walls so high around her heart that even the gentlest soul couldn't scale them. If this story is touching your heart already, please hit that like button. Drop a comment below sharing your thoughts and subscribe for more inspiring stories that remind us of the beauty and unexpected moments. 3 years had passed since her fiancé had walked away, leaving her standing alone in the apartment they were supposed to share forever. She had promised herself she would never be that vulnerable again. Marcus was talking about his work as an elementary school teacher, his voice warm and animated as he described his students' latest antics. Sarah nodded mechanically, offering appropriate smiles and responses, but her mind was already planning her exit strategy. She would finish her coffee, make a polite excuse about an early morning meeting, and then she would go home to her safe, predictable, solitary life. As Marcus paused to take a sip of his drink, Sarah noticed something shift in his expression. A flicker of nervousness, a slight trembling in his hand as he set down his cup. He cleared his throat softly and said something that caught her completely off guard. "I should probably mention," he began, his voice quieter now, almost hesitant, "I have a 7-year-old daughter. Her name is Lily. Her mother passed away 2 years ago from cancer, and it's just been the two of us ever since." The words hung in the air between them, and Sarah felt something crack in the fortress she had built around herself. She saw the vulnerability in his eyes, the fear of rejection that mirrored her own, and for the first time that evening she really looked at him. This wasn't just some random man her friend had set her up with. This was a father trying to rebuild his life while honoring the memory of someone he had loved and lost. This was someone who understood grief, who knew what it meant to wake up every morning and choose to keep going despite the weight of absence. Sarah found herself leaning forward, genuinely interested now, asking questions about Lily, about how they were managing, about what it was like to be both mother and father to a young girl navigating the world without her mom. Marcus' entire demeanor transformed as he spoke about his daughter. His face lit up with a love so pure and profound that Sarah felt tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. He told her about Lily's obsession with dinosaurs, her habit of leaving notes around the house telling him he was the best daddy in the whole universe, and how she still slept with her mother's old sweater because it made her feel close to her. The more Marcus talked, the more Sarah felt the ice around her heart beginning to thaw, drip by painful drip. The evenings stretched longer than Sarah had planned, and she found herself laughing, genuinely laughing, for the first time in months. When Marcus suggested they continue their conversation over dinner at his place, mentioning that his sister was currently watching Lily and wouldn't mind staying a bit longer, Sarah surprised herself by agreeing. The drive to his house was filled with comfortable conversation and shared playlists, and Sarah felt something unfamiliar stirring in her chest, something that felt dangerously close to hope. Marcus' home was modest but warm, with crayon drawings covering the refrigerator and a collection of stuffed animals arranged carefully on the living room couch. They had just started preparing dinner together when they heard the front door open. His sister's voice called out a greeting, followed by the sound of small feet running through the hallway. Sarah turned toward the noise just as a little girl with wild curly hair and her father's kind eyes burst into the kitchen. Lily stopped dead in her tracks when she saw Sarah, her mouth falling open in shock. For a moment nobody moved. Then Lily's face broke into the brightest smile Sarah had ever seen, and she pointed directly at her with a trembling finger. "Daddy!" she shrieked, bouncing on her toes with uncontainable excitement. "Daddy, it's her. It's the lady from your bedtime story. The one with the sad eyes who forgot how to smile." Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she looked at Marcus, whose face had turned bright red. He knelt down to his daughter's level, trying to gently shush her, but Lily was having none of it. "You told me every night that you were waiting for someone special," Lily continued, her voice filled with childlike wonder and absolute certainty. "Someone who understood being sad, someone who needed to remember that happy endings are real. You said she would have eyes like a rainy day, but a heart ready for sunshine. Daddy, that's her. Tears were streaming down Sarah's face now, and she couldn't have stopped them if she tried. Marcus stood slowly, his own eyes glistening with emotion, and looked at Sarah with an expression of such tender hope that it shattered the last remaining wall around her heart. He had been telling his daughter stories about her. Not her specifically perhaps, but about someone exactly like her. He had been teaching his daughter that broken hearts could heal, that people carrying grief could find joy again, that love was worth the risk even after devastating loss. Before we get to the beautiful ending, if you're feeling inspired by this story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Kindness Pulse. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it today. Lily ran to Sarah and grabbed her hand with the fierce confidence that only children possess. "Will you stay for dinner?" she asked, looking up at Sarah with such genuine hope that saying no was impossible. "I can show you my dinosaur collection, and Daddy makes really good spaghetti, and maybe you can help me write a story too." Sarah looked from Lily to Marcus and then back to Lily. And for the first time in 3 years she allowed herself to believe in possibility again. "I would love to stay for dinner," she whispered, squeezing the little girl's hand. That evening, sitting around a table covered with dinosaur placemats and mismatched dishes, sharing spaghetti and stories and laughter, Sarah understood something profound. Sometimes the greatest love stories don't begin with fireworks and passion. They begin with two broken people finding the courage to be vulnerable, with a little girl who believes in magic, and with the willingness to trust that maybe, just maybe, happy endings are real after all. Remember, healing doesn't happen on our timeline, and love often arrives in the most unexpected moments. Stay open to the possibilities even when your heart feels heavy. You never know when your story might take a beautiful turn.